But we're going to start here this morning. The Middle East inching closer to the brink as the fight between Israel and Hezbollah intensifies, and the United States looks for some way to prevent further escalation. Overnight, Israel's Iron Dome defense system intercepting a barrage of rockets fired from southern Lebanon. No injuries were reported. Those rockets coming just hours after Israel's largest attack on Lebanese soil in almost 2 decades. The Israeli military saying it struck 1,600 Hezbollah targets on Monday. Nearly 500 people, including dozens of women and children, were killed, according to the Lebanese health ministry. The moment one of those airstrikes hit, caught on camera as a journalist prepared to go live on the air. An Israeli official telling CNN that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the goal of the strikes is to separate Hezbollah from Israel's war with Hamas.
We are not waiting for a threat. We are ahead of it. Everywhere, in every arena, anytime. We're eliminating seniors, eliminating commanders, eliminating rockets, and counting. Those who try to hurt us, we will hurt them gravely.
CNN has learned that American officials believe Israel's attacks have significantly weakened Hezbollah. Still, the U.S. is working behind the scenes to convince Israel not to launch a ground invasion of Lebanon. U.S. officials' biggest concern that Iran, Hezbollah's strongest and most influential backer, could become directly involved in a wider regional war. Here was Iran's president in a new exclusive interview with CNN's Fareed Zakaria.
Will you counsel Hezbollah to restrain itself? We know that Iran has a lot of influence over Hezbollah.
Now, if there is a need, Islamic countries must convene a meeting in order to formulate a reaction to what is occurring. We must not allow for Lebanon to become another Gaza at the hands of Israel. Hezbollah cannot do that alone. Hezbollah cannot stand alone against a country that is being defended and supported and supplied by Western countries, European countries, and the United States of America.
All right, joining us now to discuss is Avi Mayer. He's former editor-in-chief of the Jerusalem Post. Avi, thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. Can you help us understand the dynamics here as to why this is happening now, the tactics that Israel's using, and what the plan would be to try to avoid a major escalation around this?
Well, Casey, this war has been ongoing for nearly 12 months now. Hezbollah launched a barrage of rockets into northern Israel on October the 8th, the day after the Hamas massacre of the day earlier. And it said it was doing so in solidarity with Hamas and the people of Gaza, and it has continued to bombard northern Israel since. That has caused widespread death and destruction across the northern part of the country. 100,000 Israelis have had to flee their homes and have not seen their homes in 12 months. And that is the pretext here. That is the context that I think is necessary. Israel last week started responding more forcefully to those attacks. Israel has said quite openly that it will not permit a situation in which entire parts of its country are off limits to its own people, where people are forced from their homes. And it said very clearly, if Hezbollah goes back to the point it's supposed to be, according to UN Resolution 1701, north of the Litani River, if it vacates the area of southern Lebanon and enables those Israelis to go back home, there's no reason for this war to continue. The war would end immediately. And it is Hezbollah's refusal to do that, and in fact, its continuation of its bombardment, that has caused this war to continue at this time.
Avi, the UN General Assembly is meeting this week in New York, and President Biden is going to give his last address as president there. And this dynamic is, of course, relevant to everything that we're seeing playing out on the ground where you are. David Sanger wrote this in the New York Times. Mr. Biden aides say the president's beginning to acknowledge that he's simply running out of time. With only 4 months left in office, the chances of a ceasefire and hostage deal with Hamas look dimmer than at any time since Mr. Biden laid out a plan at the beginning of the summer. And the risk of a wider war has never looked greater. In public, administration officials insist they've not given up. They say they simply cannot move ahead while missiles are bringing death and destruction to northern Israel and southern Lebanon, and they are clinging to the hope that even this level of missile and rocket exchange between Israel and Hezbollah will not turn into the regional war that they have been trying to stave off. How does the dynamic of an outgoing president, along with the crucible of the final weeks of a presidential election between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, affect how Benjamin Netanyahu and Israeli officials are conducting this war, if at all?
Look, there have been those who suggested that both Israel and Hamas, and perhaps now Hezbollah, are trying to push the can down the road in hopes of having some other administration come in that would be more favorable to them or their terms. I know that many Israelis, I would say the overwhelming majority, just want this war to end. They want the hostages brought back home as swiftly as possible. And if the president can bring about some kind of Hail Mary in the next few weeks that would enable those hostages who are still alive and the bodies of those who have been killed to be brought back home, the vast majority of Israelis would be extremely supportive. Whether that's something the president can actually pull off remains to be seen. And it's very clear that Hezbollah has absolutely no intention of stopping its bombardment of northern Israel unless it's forced to do so, either by Israeli response or by its masters in Iran, saying we have to stop now and we'll wait to see what happens with the future administration.
All right, Avi Mayer for us this morning. Sir, always grateful for your perspective on the show. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope you'll come back soon.
Thank you.